are live.
Terrific. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Hina Shah. I'm a senior analyst at the Kansas Health Institute, and I've been your facilitator through this process. This is the Quality of Care and Protective Services Working Group. This group was convened by the Senior Care Task Force, and today is your last meeting. So I've shared the agenda with you. We will do welcome and introductions as typically done. Then we'll work on ratifying the report, but also talk about task force meeting preparation, and we'll adjourn at 10:30. So your meeting commitments are come ready to discuss and compromise. Keep your remarks succinct and on topic. Don't hesitate to ask clarifying questions, and I will make sure we start and end on time or ask for some grace. So as we've typically done, here's your vision statement. Older Kansans will have access and the ability to choose and receive high quality, person centered services wherever they reside. So, as you're going through the ratification process, I want to make sure you keep that centered. And then, in typical fashion, I'm going to stop sharing and call on each of you to introduce yourself, so name and title. If you'd like to say one or two sentences about the report, the process, how you're feeling this morning, feel free to go ahead and then we'll dive in. All right, I'm going to start with your chair, Bill.
Good morning, Hina, everybody, staff. I'll tell you what, this is meeting number 14 of a great assemblage of talent and professionalism, and have been an honor to work with you guys. We're going to wrap up our work today and then keep looking forward. And I hope that those of you who are content experts who joined as advisors, consultants, and helpers will continue to monitor the work and participate in the work of the Senior Care Task Force. Watch the meetings, send us information, stay in touch to the best of your ability. But I really appreciate having been a part of this guided process. Hina and staff, we could not have, accomplished, the work to date that we have without your assistance. Again, just an honor. This is Bill Persinger in Topeka, Chief Executive at Vallejo Behavioral Healthcare. Just want to say welcome and thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to go around my screen. Next, I see Jan.
Hello. Jan Kimbrell, Kansas Silver-Haired Legislators from Morris County. And I also want to give a big shout out to the staff of KHI and all those appendages. The amount of research you do at a moment's notice has just amazed me, and I've been talking it up all over the state as I've been going about doing different things and talking with different folks. The work that we have discussed here over the past months has been amazing, and gratifying that there was a voice at last. And we really appreciate it out here, and we want to continue also to work to make sure that everyone is being heard and that services are being hopefully provided all across the state and not so streamlined that it's impossible to use. So thank you very much for having me be a part of this, and I've enjoyed meeting everybody, and some of the discussions were lively and interesting, and all of them were lively and interesting. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan. Next, I have Camille.
Good morning, Camille Russell. I am the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman, and it has been an honor to be on this group with this the talent, the expertise, and being able to learn new things along the way that we'll be able to hopefully go out and help as we advocate. And again, also an honor to be able to be the advocate sitting here on behalf of thousands of Kansans who reside in all 105 counties, over 700 homes across the state, and being able to look to things that will provide them that high quality person-centered services. So I'm really, really excited to be able to move forward with any of the things that we've recommended and ongoing in the future to be creative to what else we can do. So thank you all for letting me be part of your group.
Well said, both of you.
Thank you. Next, I have Deborah. Deborah, we don't hear you.
Okay. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
You think I would have learned over the last 3 years how to manage that piece. Deborah's there with Leading Age Kansas, and I appreciate the opportunity to have served on the task force and also all of the work that other people have and brain power that people have done, and particularly the work of KHI in pulling this all together with and facilitating through a process that actually led us to recommendations and priority making. So I hope it is over time will continue to be a work in progress, although I know this is a report that we will be giving to the legislature uh, when they come back.
Thank you. Next, I have Rachel.
Good morning, everyone. Rachel Perner, Wichita, Kansas, elder law lawyer down here. I have just really appreciated the vast expertise of the members on the committee. And this is my first time to work with KHI. And you've done a stupendous job, staff and Hina. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Ernie.
Yes, good morning. Ernie Kutzler, Aarp Kansas Advocacy Director. I want to first thank KHI for all their hard work on this. It's been really, really wonderful to get the emails and the follow-up information from you, and to have Hina host these meetings has been just fantastic. And thank everyone for all their hard work and their expertise, reaching out to make sure that we can provide services, quality care, person-centered, the best services that we can for our Kansas seniors and folks across the state. And just say, you know, if you look through this report, there's a ton of things that can be done immediately in the near future and further on down. But I think none of them should be forgotten because they're all important. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Next, I have Lee.
Good morning, everyone. Lee Chappie. I'm representing the adult care homes on the task force. And my first thing I want to say is how grateful I am to the legislature for recognizing that the seniors in Kansas are important and that there are a lot of experts out there who could advise on how to make their lives wonderful. So grateful for that. And then I am just going to echo what everyone else said. I'm grateful to all of the individuals on this committee and on the task force for coming together and working hard to make sure that Kansas seniors just are well cared for and have opportunity to live and thrive in their everyday. And thank you to Hina and KHI. Kudos for organizing all of us and getting all of the things that we say and putting it into a content that's able to be given to the legislature so that we can move forward with some exciting opportunities.
Thank you. Next, I have Chrissy.
Good morning, Krista Khatib, Deputy Director for Adult Protective Services. So many reasons to be thankful. I often say, you know, one thing that we all have in common is that we're all getting older every single day. And so knowing that, though, I do think this is a population sometimes that can be overlooked. So I'm grateful to each of you for championing older adults, for doing whatever we can to try to keep them safe, whether it be in a facility or in the community. And thank you, KHI, for wrangling us and keeping us organized and moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Tracy.
So, Dr. Tracy Davies, I'm nurse practitioner at Compass Behavioral Health and the program director at Washburn University in the Psychiatric Mental Health Nurse Practitioner Program. And I just want to reiterate what everyone else has said. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be a part of this committee and appreciate all of the work everyone has contributed. There are wonderful experts, and I have actually learned an awful lot being on this committee. And I'm excited to see how our recommendations will be implemented in the future.
Thank you. And then Representative Issa, we are introducing ourselves, name, title, and then, you know, a sentence or two about either your experience, how you're feeling this morning. anything along that lines. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Representative Charlotte Esau from Olathe, and I've been listening to what everybody else is saying, and I don't know that I can add to any of that because I could say all of it. I've learned a lot, and I look forward to figuring out what we can implement and how we can implement it, whether it's legislation or policy changes. And I know everybody who's on here wants what's best for our seniors, which was our goal, to find out what do we need to change, where do we have problems and how can we make things better? And it was difficult sometimes because we wanted to focus on certain specific areas, and obviously all of our expertise is in, much broader than just a narrow field. So sometimes it's hard to say, okay, we're going to only focus on these one or two. And you guys have done a good job of pulling it all together. And thank you.
Thank you. Have I missed anyone on the working group? All right, then I also want to mention that my colleague Emma Urich is online. And then also Leanne from KLRD is on. She's a terrific phone a friend when we need it, and quick research as well and support. So want to thank them. And of course, Xavier's on our close support. So if you have any IT issues, you can always reach out to him. All right. So,
Tina,
yes.
Bill Persinger here. I forgot to mention the Kansas Legislative Research Division team. These folks, I've been in quite a few meetings over the years and watched them work, and it's amazing. They're thorough, professional, and this just a great team of individuals there at KRLD.
Thank you. And so before I dive into the report, I did want to talk about the process, which has come up in the subgroup and other work group meetings. And so with this report today, you're going to discuss any additional changes to the report and ratify it. Anyone objecting to the report, let me know. But this has been a consensus bill related process. And so all of this has been agreed upon through a consensus process. Next, I will ask for volunteers to present these recommendations to the task force. And so the task force is meeting on August 24th and August 25th. So take a look at your calendars. The work group report to the task force will be most likely in the morning. The agenda is not set yet, but somewhere between 8 and 9 it'll start, and then it'll be, I think they're trying to squeeze us in before lunch, but it might take until 1 or 2 depending on the questions that are provided. And so there's a few ways the task force report can be presented, and I'll share with you what the other groups are doing. The other groups have their chairs introducing the topics and concepts basically behind each of your 3 topic areas. And then each recommendation is assigned to a different volunteer. The default is your chair or vice chair if no one volunteers. So be kind. And what you will do is you'll present the recommendation and the content around it and answer any questions. And that's pretty much the format through it. And so if there's other new things you've brought up, like Rachel will share recent legislation in Alabama related to the clearinghouse. If there's any additional pieces to bring up, that's something to consider as well. And so then during that meeting, the task force will decide whether they want to adopt the recommendation, amend their recommendation, or they can also decide not to move forward with the recommendation. That is up to the collective task force. But note that several of you on all 3 working groups are task force members. So it is up to you to think through that process. And then you've always had legislative representatives to really spearhead your process during the legislative session. So as you're thinking about actionability and implementation, this is kind of the process flow through it. Any questions on what to expect and what you'll be doing at the task force meeting? The other thing I do want to note that I might have mentioned in the email as well is it is an in-person meeting. If you would like to participate virtually, please send an email to myself or Connor at KLRD for permission. All right, with that, I'll pause. Any questions on the process?
Hina, Bill Persinger here in Topeka. I'll on the 25th, the afternoon piece could be a little difficult for me to be there, either in person or virtually. So I think in terms of my availability, to the extent that it's important, maybe just a little. I'd be most available all day Wednesday, the 24th, and the
Mhm.
morning of the 25th, although that could even be a bit of a problem. A couple of funding meetings that day that are pretty critical. So if there's a way to, and I don't need to be the one to, stand up, and make any piece of the presentation. I'd sure defer to the skill on the, people like Lee and others. But 24th is going to be my strong day for attendance, if
And
that's helpful at all.
that is helpful. And so as they are putting the agenda together, the 24th will be the main day where the working group members are presenting to the task force and
Super.
questions will be asked on that day. Again, I haven't seen the full agenda, but the 25th could be more discussion around, the recommendations, deciding what to adopt, amend, or not move forward. But again, I don't have the agenda in front of me unless Leanne has an update.
Well, and Bill, again, in terms of reporting, making that official report, if I can play a small part, fine. I know that, Representative Esau and others, can, easily stand up and represent. I think we've got, 4 or 5 pretty interchangeable, parts there that we could all, do our part.
Appreciate it. Any other questions?
I did want to note you're correct about the senior care task force meeting days. We don't have the full agenda fleshed out, but the first day will be working group presentations, and the second day will be stakeholder presentations and then discussion.
Terrific. Thank you. Go ahead, Jane.
Yes, I was wondering, is on the second day, is that a full day? So like it's going to go late into, might go late into the afternoon, do you know? Yeah, is it a full schedule that day?
I believe that we have the full day, and I'm not entirely sure when we're planning to end that agenda, but we have the full day.
Okay, thank you. I have something that evening. I'm trying to figure out if I need to find somebody to handle that because I need to be in Topeka. And so that's what I was wondering, because it takes me a little over an hour to get home from Topeka. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, let's dive right in then.
Oops.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And so this is the report that was sent to all of you. We have made a few modifications from the other work groups, so you'll see red ink here and there. Know that, this was your first opportunity to see all of the recommendations. And so I hope you've had a chance to see where some of your recommendations that were sent to other work groups were incorporated, and then also, how your recommendations fit in with the other groups as well. So I'm just going to go piece by piece through it. And as I said, as we go through each recommendation, I'll ask for volunteers. So this is just the front matter with acknowledgements. We try to acknowledge each of the subject matter experts that did attend and provide presentations to your group. As you remember, each of the topic areas, as you were studying them, supplemental experts came and presented to you. So take a look at this page. Were there any edits that someone had flagged for this page? You can always give me technical corrections up to tomorrow, but definitely need content and technical related today. All right, hearing none. Quick overview of the report. Any edits, changes, questions, or concerns about what was reported here?
Hina, Bill Persinger here. Back on the acknowledgements, I'm just trying to read real quickly. We got our content experts, our advisory group members, Tracy Davies and others listed there. The screen is right in a blurry spot for my reading distance. Okay, that to get really close or really far. There you go. That helps.
So this is only our supplemental experts, not to interject here.
Oh no, please.
They are considered work group members, and so they are listed in the back end.
Outstanding. Thank you so much.
Right.
All right. Good.
There she is. All right. But thank you for that distinction. So this is only supplemental experts that were invited. All right, then moving on to the report overview. Any questions or concerns there? All right. Navigating the report, did that make sense? Those for immediate action, those for strategic importance, and kind of prioritizing. All right. Vision statements are what we've been reading every meeting just to center everyone. And then when you go through, this is the full list of work group recommendations. And what I want everyone to remember is this is all 3 groups by tier. If you want to look at your own work group topic based, you go down to Appendix C. And I'm going to keep navigating around just so you see how much you can navigate around this report. The reason all of these are blue is because I hope you've had a chance to play with it. You can go directly to our recommendation. And then if you want to go back to kind of that full list, you can go back to the full list. So there's a few ways that you can navigate this report online just to make it easier as needed. So remember that this is all groups. And then going through the work group process, I do want to make sure that we captured how you prioritize correctly. So please let me know if there were any edits to how we captured kind of your thoughts around how to prioritize the recommendations into those 3 tiers. Is that accurate, the statement captured?
Bill Persinger here. You know, our folks who work in, you know, long-term care every day or senior health services or advocates, you want to make sure those folks, you know, really have a good look at this gray area here, make sure they're comfortable with it. Jan and others.
Thank you.
This is Camille, State Long-Term Care Ombudsman. And in keeping with our vision statement for this, I'm wondering if perhaps some wording in there that not only safe, but that they have control over their lives.
I would agree with that because when you just leave the language of safe, I just have witnessed in the arm of safety, you can really alter someone's life because you are imposing upon them things that make them safe, but that they don't want to do. So I would agree with Camille on that we want them to be safe, but we also want them to have choice.
How's that?
I like that.
And we can wordsmith a little more, but does that capture your sentiment?
Yes, I would suggest perhaps in the wordsmithing that you, I like to make their own decisions, but they also get to make the decision of what is safe for them. So I don't know.
What feels safe.
Right, the potential for older adults to make their own decisions for safety and quality of life. That I don't want to get too caught up in the wordsmithing. I think it really did look great. But
Yeah, I think this is
do this
Camille.
all day, so you can just stop me anytime.
This is Camille. I think it was pretty good too. I think that some national language sometimes you see used is that people have positive control over their lives. That in itself alludes to being, you know, having control and being safe because positive. So, you know, I bet you can find something.
Safety and autonomy are at the root of a lot of discussion and controversy when it comes to older adults at all levels. And so we're not, you know, we can try to get the flavor for that in here, but that's it's based on decades long ageism and everything else that we tend to emphasize safety over the decision making of the older person themselves. So
okay, I've got
I think this bill here, I think that really strengthens it. And you know, again, testimony to the, you know, people who work in you know, gerontology every day, having their input.
Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead, Chrissy, and then I think Jan, someone just spoke up.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Jan Kimbrell, silver-haired legislator. Maybe I'm picking, and probably am, but I would like, if it's appropriate, to put in here that we've seen older adults have the information available to have positive control over their own lives, because so many times what is possible is not known to the person that's in the situation, and there's nowhere to turn. And I don't, you know, back to wordsmithing again, but
So remember, this is how you prioritize your
sure.
recommendations and put them into tiers.
Yeah.
And you did talk about a lot of access to information. So
Okay.
ensure older adults have access to information. Okay,
So you know, but it's not taking, you know, the way it was okay. I just want to make the statement that that's where we are.
You know,
No,
Phil, here, I
appreciate
could sure appreciate what you're saying, Jan. I wonder though if that phrase, you know, that positive control really implies a lot of things. Like you aptly point out, information, you know, are there advocates around these folks? What are the protective factors around these individuals? I think that phrase positive control.
You think that covers it?
Well,
Okay.
you know, look, I don't work every day in the field like you do, but so I'd sure, you know, defer to you, Jan and others, but I think if we can keep this as succinct as possible,
Sure.
we've got some powerful words in there to say a lot: safety, positive control, autonomy, quality care. You know,
Okay.
not to be argumentative, just to say I
No,
think we got some
no.
powerful words in there, but I do hear you, Jan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll work on it. We'll try to capture. I'll keep it in a parenthetical for
Succinct.
now, and then see if
Awesome.
we can wordsmith it a little bit. All right, so that is your priority. So that's one thing I definitely wanted to make sure you took a look at. All right, we're gonna go into your cross-cutting recommendations. You had 2 of them. So the first one was around the state aging conference. So take a look at this. Did anyone have any other edits? Actually, I will keep it zoomed in to the recommendation language. Any other minor edits?
For us folks with over age 50 eyeballs, the bigger the screen, the better.
Truth there.
All right, I'm not hearing anything, so I'm going to go down to your action lead and key collaborators to make sure everyone,
this is
go ahead.
Bill. Sorry to be slow on the draw there. You
No,
know,
you're fine.
there was recently a statewide conference in the area of criminal justice and behavioral health care that drew a lot of elected and non-elected officials. That was a very powerful meeting that set the tone for a lot of public policy and discussion. So at this notion of a conference is a good one, and I think can be, you know, other than the work of the Senior Care Task Force and our work group, can be seminal to a lot of changes if we can get legislator participation out of the governor's office, you know, highly placed appointed officials, of course, the esteemed members of this group. But these conferences can be more than just, oh, okay, that was nice. I mean, they could really be a marker for change. So I think it's important that it's in here.
Would you want to add them as key collaborators, legislators, state and local officials?
I've deferred to the other experts, you know, people like Lee and others, and you know, that work in public policy every day. But I would think so. It really was powerful to have, you know, Governor Kelly, you know, speak, and you know, county officials and others.
We could go really high level and just keep it state and local policymakers as well. If
Elected and non-elected or appointed, yeah.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Executive Adult Protective Services. I'm not sure if it's needed, but I do think I see DCF having a role in this, and also the Attorney General's office.
Oh,
so
yeah, sure.
Implied, and I apologize if it is.
Well said, Chris.
I'll write out the acronyms later. Any others?
This is Camille, and I'm including us, the long-term care ombudsman, in stakeholders in the aging and senior care industry. So
Okay. So don't call you out separately, correct, Camille?
I don't care either way.
You're
I'll
in
push
there.
my way in if I need to, right?
Definitely, Camille. Well said.
One little nitpicking thing, I hate the word industry for what is a community of people who are committed to providing services for aging Kansans.
Mm-hmm.
I do not like that word. We do not make widgets. Seniors are not widgets.
I'll make sure to highlight that word and make sure it does not appear anywhere else in the report. We'll do
Yeah.
a global edit. Are you comfortable with community, or do you have another suggestion?
No, that's fine.
Okay, appreciate that. All right, so knowing this recommendation, who would like to volunteer to present it?
You know, I can do that, but I'd sure, you know, defer to one of the other members of the task force to stand up there and represent. I don't want to, you know, necessarily be the one.
I would be happy to present this one. I have this one and one other that I would be willing to volunteer for. So
I think you're a great choice.
Thanks, Lee. All right, so your next cross-cutting one is around person-centered practices. So take a look at this language, make sure that we captured it correctly. Also had put this related recommendation because you had discussed it, but I wanted to make sure that is the element you wanted in there.
This is Camille, and I'm needing to question, I thought I'd be great to present this, but I'm questioning where it says ensure technology and community support accessibility for the client before applying paid eligibility-based services. I think that even is something that I said, but I'm not sure the wording captures what I meant.
How about we go back to what you meant to make sure the wording captures it?
Well, so that there's a recognition of the person's own strengths and abilities before assigning eligibility or, you know, paid eligibility-based services, paid services, that we recognize and allow choice and use of the person's assets and abilities. And I say that is coming from a person-centered framework used nationally where they do that. That's what they do to help not overburden the paid services sector and to allow choice and autonomy and control for people to choose to do the things they still can do using technology, their own relationships, community, you know, things. So I'm trying to think, I see, I'm looking at it and I recognize it as being what I recognize it myself, but I'm not sure. And maybe I could do a better job of presenting that.
Hina, Bill Persinger here. I appreciate what you're saying, Camille. And I think, you know, if I'm hearing you, that this is a pretty technical, specific area. And I think Hina, jumping ahead to who might present this, you know, somebody like, you know, Camille, who, you know, works in this every day to make these words understandable for a layman reading this.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'm probably not the one to do that, but somebody who can, because I do look at that first bullet and go, I think I got this. But, you know, I know that if we could have somebody stand up there and really put this into layman's term, that our legislators who are listening or other constituencies really think, oh, I get that.
And Jan, did you have a comment as well?
Well, I wondered if just switching the words around so that the beginning bullet is recognize person's own strengths and abilities and put that first so that the technology and, you know. because when I first read it, I think, oh, well, if they don't have the technology and community service available right now, then they can't apply for eligibility.
Right. Right.
So then would that phrase be recognize persons' own strengths and abilities, comma, ensuring technology and community support. Does that catch it, Camille, Jan, others? Deb?
Then would you have something to say about
Well, choice to apply the technology and community-based community support if needed. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah.
Well, I think a change here is important. And
Yes.
I can appreciate that we're taking a little time with this. We want to get it right.
Person's own strengths and abilities.
Well, we're looking for is training for people to recognize really what person-centered practices are, and that people's own strengths and abilities and choice are in using technology. They're community. I'm sorry, I'm talking it out and as I'm thinking it, and choice in how they apply technology and other community support, their own relationships, before applying paid eligibility-based services.
Would changing, I'm sorry to be picking on a word, before applying, and I'd say prior to applying, to me, it just.
Yes.
Let me ask a quick question.
Sure.
What changes as a result of that first bullet point?
So originally the bullet point is ensure technology and community-based community support accessibility. And so it's really making sure that those having that technology and the accessibility, that information and training is established so people know what is there. And going to that first before going to eligibility-based services.
And for me, for the person-centered part of it, it is, this is Camille, for me, the point is that the person chooses their path.
Yeah,
That's really, yes.
Yeah, and this was an action step taken from another recommendation. And so that context that Camille is bringing up to make sure it works well within this new recommendation that you developed pretty late makes sense. And so but if you just got rid of the paid eligibility-based services and we add that to the rationale as to what that is.
This is Krista Katib, APS. Or when I read prior or before applying, to me that infers something negative. And we know, I've just services perspective, that may be key to keeping somebody in the community if they choose to. So if in applying or if deciding to apply or striking the language, because I don't want that to be negative, because I don't believe it is negative for some.
This is Camille, and I agree with Chrissy. It's like, I think that I don't want it to sound like we're not allowing for application of, or that we're discouraging that. I think it's about the person having choice about, they have as much control over their life in general, and that they can apply the things that they do well and or have the ability to do, or the other resources to do, and choose then the eligibility-based services that they need as well. So maybe striking it in a sense would make it clearer.
Well, and I think that one of the goals of this task force and of this committee and a lot of us here, and all of us really, are to help reframe the paradigm of aging. Like Deborah said, we want to have everyone see it first and foremost as that person has a lot of strengths and abilities, and they can choose their own path, and then here are all the different paths they can choose. And so we're kind of doing both with this task force, is not just here's all the services that you need right now because you're aging, but we recognize you have strengths, and here's all the things Kansas has to offer you to choose from to live your best years.
Okay, so I'm hearing to consider striking this. The other way is I put when or if you could put if you wanted to keep the eligibility-based services in there. It's your recommendation, so I'm fine striking it if that's the best decision to make.
This is Ernie from ARP. I was going to say, can we just strike applying for paid eligibility services?
Yep.
Yes.
All right,
That's
so struck. And then just so you see it in simple, take a look at this and make sure that captures your sentiment. And then let me know if you want any of that in the rationale. Otherwise, we'll keep the language as is.
Shouldn't it be accessing? Am I getting that wrong? Recognize person's own strengths, abilities, and choice in using technology and accessing community-based supports.
Well, it could either be other supports, paid or unpaid, or something like to that effect. I'm just saying.
Okay. Do you want me to put paid or unpaid?
Parenthetically.
Or I might recommend formal and informal.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
I like that.
Good with that?
Hina, Bill Persinger, have we made a decision on who might, we need somebody to stand up and present this one?
I thought it was Camille, but maybe
Okay, yes, that's right.
I
Okay,
heard
thank
that
you.
wrong.
I thought so too.
I would do that. I think there's others that would do that equally as well. So I will do it. But
Anyone else want to present this?
Krista Katib, Adult Protective Services. I just wanted to let the team know I will not be available during this presentation. So I'd be happy to report out, but I'll be out of state.
I think we're pretty comfortable with you doing that, Camille. I'm not hearing any objection.
All right. Any other edits to this one? Otherwise, I'll move us along.
Let's take just a minute and just let that soak in, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 bullets.
this is Camille. I don't know if we need it to say, do we need it to say community-based? Do we need it to say in accessing supports, formal or informal? It's a question. I'm sorry to be,
No, words have meaning.
Mm-hmm. So I've highlighted kind of the language in question, either to keep or strike that.
That speaks to me kind of as a, kind of a quasi, geriatric professional, in more of a layman really, but it speaks to me.
So I'm hearing keep it, Bill?
I would like to, but I sure defer to the.
it's okay. It was a question.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to move us along. I'm hearing that we probably don't need to define paid eligibility-based services in the rationale, that it's not necessary. All right. Take a look at your leads and collaborators. Anyone else to put in on this list?
Folks, if you need to speak this, Bill, if you need to if you need to speak up for your folks, your area, your agency, this might be the place to do that for.
And then, yep, and keep in mind associations and providers have been defined. And so if you don't want to call out specific ones, you don't have to, but you can in some cases if you wanted to. We've kind of gone both ways on the groups. Go ahead, Jan.
Looking down at key performance indicators, resident satisfaction, that seems to indicate nursing home, long-term care. Does it not? Not, yeah. Senior,
That is currently measured. That's probably why
Mhm.
resident is in there. I mean, we don't have, I'm not aware of
Okay.
satisfaction measures, instruments for outside of adult care homes or outside of nursing homes specifically.
There are other recommendations around conducting surveys and assessments for all. So if you wanted to change this to just satisfaction, we could change it to that. And that way it's including those in a community and those in a facility.
Or stakeholder.
yeah, because my concern is that this seemed to indicate that only people that are already in long-term care were considered in this, and it's been a much
I think
larger
that-
group than that. So
I think that puts us on a higher road, Jan. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Back up on action lead. Do we need to mention DCF in there? Or does that relate, Chrissy?
Yeah, that I was going to speak up. Yes, I think one of the key collaborators again would be Adult Protective Services. You think about 10,000 intakes a year, about A&E.
Right, exactly.
And add the AG's office. Additionally, other key performance indicators. I think the focus of one of the focuses is trauma-informed care. So I think a key performance indicator would be specialized geriatric. Bill, help me, but maybe mental health supports, something along those lines.
That's a great, thank you. Yeah, I agree, Chrissy. Mental health supports, behavioral health supports.
Well, and our front door to this sometimes is the ADRC to the AAAs. I mean, it's that's our front door. So
With the AAAs in there?
You bet.
well, the ADRC of because you have 8 survey. Well, this is good.
This is good? All right. Okay, so then we're going to go topic by topic. So just kind of quick introduction on your topics and areas. Going into administration of antipsychotics, you have 2 recommendations in here. So the first one is around geriatric psychiatric prescribers. So you segued nicely into that. Take a look at this recommendation language and let me know if there were any other edits that you found when reviewing. And then volunteers, who would like to volunteer to present this? Go ahead, Tracy.
Hi, I would just suggest instead of medication checks, I would prefer instead of checks, evaluation.
Any
Good call.
objections to that? All right.
Oh, it's a good idea.
And this bill, Hina or others, refresh me again why that phrase home health services, or is there maybe, are there other nursing home care, long-term, is there a reason why we mentioned only home health services? I'm just blanking on why.
I think we were just trying to be
Because
all
they
inclusive.
get done in the facilities, I think was the conversation. Go ahead, Lee.
No, yeah, go ahead. I think that was it because this service is available in long-term care. So I think it was around the conversation that a lot of times seniors in the community don't have this availability. And so they're seen by a general practitioner who doesn't have the expertise and
This is Bill again. The reason I brought that up is I recall discussions about, maybe some of the smaller nursing facilities, maybe not having access, to a specialist, a psychiatric specialist, either in person or online to, review meds, discuss behaviors, maybe treatments that may be needed. So unless I'm opening up a whole nother hour and a half worth of discussion, you know, I thought we did talk about folks like, Tracy Davies, who could, go to a facility virtually at the call of another physician and say, hey, can you help me with this? And,
So we did, and in that conversation, that's why it moved. And that first sentence is medication checks are completed in nursing home settings. And so
okay.
if that's not accurate, then we would need to amend the rationale as well.
Yeah, does the
other way,
recommendation fit with the rationale, in other words?
it does right now
Okay.
because you're saying that they are completed in the nursing home. However, if you wanted to remove this word home and say receiving health services, you could make it broader. And so that is up to the work group.
Tracy's got her hand up, Hina, but I
ahead,
just
Tracy.
prefer.
Sorry, I just didn't take it down from the first time.
Oh, okay.
But I would just say, yeah, I think we were just trying to be all inclusive of
Mhm.
the settings. So whatever wordsmithing we can do to make that inclusive.
We could do health services in all settings.
I like that, but sure, open for a little bit of discussion or a lot of discussion if we need to. I think it's an important thing when we look at the capacity of a person to, thrive in a residential setting or in their own home or living with family. Those behaviors, I'm preaching to the choir here, but those behaviors often get in the way of independence or semi-independence.
Go ahead, Jan, did you have your hand up?
Well, just, I wanted to agree with your latest edit there, because the recommendation to say in all settings, then you drop down into the rationale and it explains it. There's nursing home and then as older, I like that.
Okay, great. So
Chrissy,
who wants? Go ahead, Chrissy.
I just want to stress with adult protective services, this is a tremendous need, and this is often the key to keeping an older adult in their home safely. So just please let this be a both and.
And making sure that you're on here, Chrissy. I'm not seeing DCF on this list again. So I'm going to add.
There you go.
And then do you want the AG's office added as well for this one?
Would, please, if the group
Okay.
agrees, I would.
Is everyone comfortable with that? All right. Who wants to volunteer for this? Tracy, do you have your hand up to volunteer, or Camille?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind presenting. I'll have to make sure that I can clear my calendar to do that.
Hina, this is Bill. Tracy, would you be able to come up in person, or are you thinking about virtual, if that's an option?
I probably could come in person.
I think that'd be very powerful. I was really pleased to see that you and Lisa were able to create time in your schedule, from your duties every day. And, having somebody with your history and would be pretty important to present on this one in particular.
Camille, did you have a comment as well, or?
I just felt the need to go on record that I think that this recommendation is really important and really powerful and support it fully. The medication assessments are done in nursing home settings, but the recommendations are done. They aren't necessarily heeded, followed, or paid attention to at times. And I want to go on record as saying that is one of the issues, and that I think that we were given this topic in a sense to address the sometimes misuse of in those settings. And I think we might have not gotten that. Of all the good work we did, we might have missed that piece of the puzzle. But we can come back to that going forward. It's going to still be around, and really going back to the beginning in the community and not having the medications taken care of properly before is good work. So this is an awesome recommendation, but I do want to say I'm not sure that we did get to the heart of one piece of what we were asked to look at when it came to the medication use. So.
And I heard you say medication assessments. I want to make sure it's assessments or evaluation. I want to make sure you're comfortable.
Evaluation would be
That's fine.
Okay. I agree. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Lee, I'm going to take you as the last comment, and then Tracy, but we have 35 minutes to get through all of our recommendations. So let's stay succinct if we can. Go ahead, Lee.
Okay, I'll be quick. I would say that this does meet the concern about misuse of antipsychotics, because if you can get providers that are more skilled, like Tracy, into nursing homes to make accurate evaluations instead of just using the general practitioners, I believe you can help cut down on the antipsychotic medication use in nursing homes, or have it be more targeted. So I would say it does help with that.
Yes.
Thank you, Lee. I wholeheartedly agree. And I just wanted to mention my other comment was to, if you could just do the global fix on the medication check language.
I'm right there with you, Tracy. Do you want to add like reductions in medication misuse? Is that something you'd want to measure? Can you measure that?
I don't think it's
Can't.
measurable. I
Okay.
don't think that's measurable.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure. And I will highlight this just to make sure we do a global check. All right. Any others in those key collaborators? I think we added a few already. Any others to think about?
The only other thing I could think of would be there is a regulation of inappropriate medication use. And so, I mean, possibly that could be a measurement per se, in that nursing homes aren't being cited as frequently under that regulation for psychotropic medications.
Okay. I'll add it to the list. So it's something at least the group can consider as they are implementing the recommendation. Lee, did you have anything else, or is that left over? No, you're totally fine. All right. Your second recommendation is around psychotropic medication education. So take a look at this one. 30 seconds if possible. Any minor edits? The other ones, I mean, there were some new recommendations, so I wanted to make sure you had the space to change those.
I had a question under key performance indicators on that.
Sure.
And that is reduction in number of referrals to geropsych units.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't know how this will, we don't know. I think it's changing that the use of geropsych units may change, but not necessarily decrease or increase. And so trends in referrals to maybe geropsych units might be better.
I like that.
You good with that?
Actually increase.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think there were a few recommendations where I remember reductions, and then Chrissy would say, well, we may
Yeah,
see
sometimes
more.
And then also on key performance indicators, does Medicare or anybody track emergency room visits with a diagnosis of, you know, psychotropic medication misadventure or, you know, misuse? I don't know.
KDHE has a lot of measures on emergency department visits, and so I can double check with them to make sure it's they have one that's
Yeah, I'm not aware of that, but then I wouldn't necessarily be aware of that.
there are several measures that KDHE captures, and so I can double check with them if necessary, if the group pleases.
And then baseline data needed, reduction of beds, for hospital admission for geriatric, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, we got 2 new programs opening up in the next year, okay, in Wichita. And they're desperately needed from my perspective. So this may be redundant. Just the baseline needed is how many are there now, perhaps.
So remove the second bullet. How do people feel about that?
Yeah. I mean, they're
Seeing some
kind of
head nods. Yeah, they go together. All right, go ahead, Rachel. Thank you.
Yes, on the key performance indicators, on the reduction in care and treatment, legal proceedings, I mean, we need to be looking at the older population. So, you know, measuring all the care and treatment legal proceedings, that's going to include everyone.
Is that a place where we need the word trends instead of reduction? Because that's
You know,
not
that's not a
necessarily
bad
negative.
idea, Bill, because I do think that that will be a measure for the older adults.
And it doesn't have to be a negative.
It can go either way. It's just seeing change over time. All right, who would like to volunteer for this one?
May I add one more key indicator? I'd like to ask the group
Yes.
guardianship data one. It may not necessarily be, I don't know, I'm just.
Guardianship, is that what you said?
Yeah, how guardianship data might be helpful in this.
The guardianship data, yes, trends in guardianship data would be for so many reasons, including this one.
All right. Okay. All right, volunteers.
I wouldn't mind presenting on this one, but I don't want to be a presenter hog. So I don't know. Also, sorry, I don't want to volunteer Deborah, but I know we have a lot of, or Camille, we have a lot of examples across the state of specifically homes that have increased their education for dementia care and drastically reduced their use of antipsychotics. So I don't know if that applies here or. Anyway.
Go ahead, Rachel. Do you have your hand raised as well?
I do. On the guardianship, the trends, what exactly are we looking at? I mean, that's pretty broad, and not limited to older folks. I mean, are we looking at, for example, orders permitting the guardian to admit to a treatment facility?
This is Camille, State Long-Term Care Ombudsman, and I actually, that we don't seem to have data on guardianships. So any recommendation we could get towards even a specific, I think you're right, Rachel, that we need to be maybe more specific, but that might move us towards getting data that we need for lots of reasons. We tend to see an increase recently in the last few years of guardianships requested so that individuals, so that guardians can decide if they're going to be put on these types of medicines, so that guardians can decide if they're going to be institutionalized, so that guardians can decide if lots of things. So, but for this purpose is one. So having that actually that guardianships, the guardianships that are filed period for a certain age range, and then the reason for that maybe would be helpful.
Is everyone comfortable with trends and requests for guardianship? Does that bring about clarity? All right. Okay, going back to who's going to present. I think I heard Lee say she would, but if others wanted to, others can. Anyone else?
I'd be willing to do it as
Deborah?
well. I'd be
All
willing
right.
to do it. Mhm.
Lee, are you comfortable with that? I think you suggested Deborah.
Yeah, I am. I think there's a lot of.
All right. Terrific. All right, so A&E, I'm going to give you guys about 15 minutes to go through all these recs, and you have a lot of them. So I hope you've had a chance to look at them in advance, but take a look at the first one, the Workforce Clearinghouse. I will say that I haven't shared with all of you, but Rachel did send me an article from Alabama on passage of something similar to this. And so we will add that if all of you are comfortable with it to the rationale so that there's a source of something that has been done in another state. But take a look at that language. Any edits? And MICU in there, so if you're adding the language, awesome. I'm just going to highlight it for now. All right, I'm not hearing anything, so I'm going to go down to the key collaborators. Anyone else on there that's missing? So a lot of your boards, regulatory, attorney generals in there. All right, look at your indicators. I think you have several in here. And then those can always be tweaked, right? These are suggestions, and as the groups get together, they can always bring specificity, clarity, ask questions. All right, so going up, go ahead, Rachel. I think you might be on mute, Rachel.
I think on the key collaborators, we also need to add, where appropriate, district and county attorneys.
Okay. Terrific. Did you have another one, Rachel? Oh, no, you lowered your hand maybe? Oh, go ahead.
It's Rachel again. I'll be happy to present on this.
Good deal.
This is Bill. I'm going to step out for just a minute. So
Okay.
just carry on. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or concerns about this one? Rachel, did you have your hand up again?
I did not. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Just wanted to make sure.
And Krista Khatib, APS, if you scroll down, I think I had criminal prosecution. I might suggest it was like the reduction, but it actually may not be a reduction. It's when you put the puzzle together, you may actually have an increase. So maybe it's just any trend data.
Yeah, we have trends.
Okay, I apologize.
No, you're fine. Good check though. All right, moving us on then to background checks. Take a look at that recommendation language. And then see how in the rationale it kind of goes back to the clearinghouse so that there's some interplay between the two recommendations.
This is Deborah. In that recommendation itself, at the last portion of that says, while prohibiting direct resident care until background check results are available. That's going to be tough. If we're going to do that, we're going to have to require KBI to do background checks much more quickly than they do now.
Right. And that's
because we, there is the current statute does allow for provisional employment until the background check is completed. And with the workforce crisis, I don't know how this can be accomplished, frankly.
right. This group talked about employing them in other areas besides direct care. That's part of the rationale that's in here. And so that would be the provisional employment parameters while that background check is being done.
Yeah.
With increased funding and kind of those comprehensive checks, that's one way to have more staff to do the background checks. That's the recommendation that was put forward by this group. However, if you'd like to make changes, amendments,
well,
now's the time.
Where does it talk about more funding for KBI? Is that
the state of Kansas shall increase funding to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation.
And okay, so in a more timely manner, I guess I'd say.
And so it says in a more
in a timely manner, in a more timely manner.
In a more timely manner.
Yeah.
All right. Any objections to that?
This would be my little piece. And then I just want to clarify from the group is that the background checks would go beyond criminal convictions and adjudications. So we're not talking about somebody's being investigated for A&E, are we? I mean, that's
no.
Okay, good, because we can't. I mean, that can't be. Some of us would love that, but that cannot be.
Well, no, actually, I take that back because we have civil hearings and licensure board hearings, so I take it back.
Yeah, that's a conflict with due process under the Constitution. I don't see how that would ever happen. Although, like I said, there's some of us who would love that.
That's on that to ensure that we are not. Go ahead, Rachel.
I'm not sure I'm following you, Deb, on this. The civil
Well,
hearings, so if I sue someone to have them removed because they're abusing their authority as
yeah,
someone's agent under a
right,
power of attorney,
right.
why wouldn't we want that in the background mix? And
Yeah, maybe I'm just misunderstanding, Rachel. I just don't think that it's permissible to put in a public record like this, what we're talking about here, that there's a lawsuit pending or lawsuit going on. Once it's been dispensed with and there's a decision, I get it. But if it hasn't been substantiated or it hasn't been fully adjudicated yet, then I don't know that it can be. I think that we'd run into problems trying to get something like that
so,
enacted.
Rachel again, so Deb, maybe we want a final judgment out of the
Yeah,
case?
yeah, yes.
Is that, I'm not an attorney, is that not an adjudication? Is that not the making the formal judgment? Is that not what that adjudication means?
Well, adjudication is really kind of a term of art.
Okay.
Under the guardianship conservatorship code, you adjudicate people as being adults with an impairment. But on the civil side of things, so if I sue someone for abusing for breach of trust under a trust document or a civil, I get a judgment, a final judgment.
Okay.
Would you want to change the example to final judgment then?
I think final judgment or adjudication.
Or adjudication.
In final judgment, right? Or adjudications? Is that what I'm hearing?
Rachel again, and yes, that's what you're hearing.
Okay. All right. And who wanted to present this?
Rachel.
Rachel? Rachel's been volunteered.
I think you already volunteered.
They do go hand in hand though with the clearinghouse, so hopefully that'll make it easier.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I am going to move us along unless there is anyone in this key collaborator list that hasn't been identified. All right. AG's office, does that need to be on here?
You know, my thought would be, again, county and district attorneys as well as the AG's office.
Okay.
And it also seems if we've got the Kansas State Board of Nursing, we ought to have the Board of Healing Arts.
Okay, so why don't we add the language around regulatory bodies so it's consistent across recommendations if you're comfortable with that. All right, thank you. All right, next one. A&E training. Take a look at the language. Think about who wants to volunteer for this, and I'll keep going through. Know that this one overlaps a little bit, not entirely, with Work Group B's training recommendation. And so we could actually, but this one, I know this group wanted to focus on public law enforcement mandatory reporters. Go ahead, Chrissy.
I would, instead of law enforcement, I would offer first responders to cover a broader base.
Responders.
Well said.
Everyone
Yes.
comfortable?
Yes.
Bill, did you have
Hina.
another question?
I was just saying, Hina, Bill, Persinger, hi. In terms of someone to present on this, we still haven't made that decision, it looks like. Yeah. Again, this is, pretty specific subject matter, and I really think somebody who's a professional in this area probably ought to get up there. There could be questions, and, someone like me, I would just have to defer. So maybe a subject matter expert, somebody who's a professional in this area.
Well, let's take a look at your action lead and key collaborators. Anyone from that
There you
group?
go.
Can we go back up to recommendation, the last bullet, was there really a decision made by this body, this particular work group, or was it another work group to do 3 hours of A&E training? It looks like specifically for nursing homes and not adult care homes.
It
but
was this group
it was this-
specifically. Yep.
It
And
was
then-
this, it was this group with much discussion. And I
Mhm.
think I would like, I mean, I would volunteer to do this. I also would volunteer Lee to do this and think that would be a good, so.
Lee, would you like to do it or would you like Camille to? I know you had another one flagged for yourself too.
Yeah, I really wanted to present the multidisciplinary surveyors.
So this is
ooh,
in-service training. This is
Yeah.
not continuing. This is not like continuing nursing education for continuing education credits. This is intended for all staff in nursing facility specific. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I think it was adding to the adult care home state regulations to increase the federal regulation that is 12 to 15. I'm not sure I'm completely on board with that particular one, but I understand the reason behind why it would be there. But
There's a number of states that have done that or more. And
So
yeah.
I'm with Lee. I'm not sure about this, but rather than continuing education, should it be in-service education? To clarify, in the world of adult care homes, in-service means something and continuing education means something different.
I agree.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Oh, I was just recalling the long conversation we had over this. And I think we were trying to be more inclusive than just nursing homes and try to capture other people. And so I think that's why we have some differences in the language as far as continuing ed and in-service.
You could say adult care homes just to be comprehensive if you wanted to. Go ahead, Lee.
well, could it be done at the licensing board level? Because
Licensing board.
just wondering the difference between what you're saying, Deborah, and the difference between an in-service, which the employer would provide, and the continuing education, which is what you would have to have. So I don't know, it was at some point in my tenure as a social worker, they added the 3 hours of ethics training was supposed, we have to do that now for our social work license. And I don't know if we do it, because that broadens the scope of people getting the A&E education.
So how's that a continuing education on A&E for adult care home staff? Because that's the broader definition. Does that work?
Well, it might be for licensed individuals. I don't know. The thing about it that I can hear Camille, because your CNAs, your home health aides, they don't have continuing education requirements, right?
They have in-service. Well, nurse aides have in-service requirements.
How's that?
Well, no,
continuing
the
or
facility has an in-service requirement.
What if you just made it broader and say continuing or in-service education, depending on if they're licensed or not licensed, for adult care home staff? And then remember, this is a recommendation. You can always, the lead and key collaborators can get together and decide how to move forward with this.
Fine. I would just probably not want to keep it so narrow to adult care home staff. I think anybody working in senior services. So if you're a home health aide, if you're wherever you're going to care for a senior, you need to be able to recognize A&E, but that might be
direct caregivers and other adult care home staff and other direct caregivers in other settings or something. And I don't know why we have to have, and the state increased total hours of required training from 12.
That was over much debate that this group had to do that. I apologize. It's 10:19. We have 10 minutes left of this meeting.
All right.
I could make one quick suggestion under rationale, second sentence.
Sure.
Aiding in preventing and identifying needs to be in that language.
Good with that?
Yeah.
All right, Rachel?
Collaborators, we need to add district and county attorneys.
Okay. All right, going back to who presents this, Camille or Lee?
Well, Lee wanted the surveyor thing. So
I'm comfortable with Camille presenting, but I can as well. I just wanted to do the multidisciplinary surveyor.
And you can do more than one as long as Bill's okay with that. And Bill is. How
Well,
about I
she's
put Camille and Lee for now? You guys can decide. I can circle back to you guys as well. All right, sorry to move you guys along, but it is 10:20 unless you give me grace for another half an hour. Financial crime campaign. This is really just that targeted campaign about financial crime. Take a look at your list of collaborators. We do have KCDAA on here, but did you want county and district attorneys, or is that kind of the entity, Rachel, we should put across all of those other recommendations?
Rachel here, it should be the latter. It's the Kansas District and County Attorneys Association, I think. And I'm not sure who we're talking about on the Key Collaborators for Power of Attorney and Durable Power of Attorney.
Who those are? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
I think it was bringing them to the table to talk about, like, from an education purpose.
You know,
but is there an association for them? Because then you're right. It doesn't make sense to have them as kind of their own entity.
No, there's not. And I think maybe the Kansas Bar Association, their trust and probate section, because those are the people that are going to be representing and putting in place those powers of attorney, as well as trust instruments and other legal mechanisms that we see exploitation in.
Okay. Everyone comfortable with that change?
Is Kansas Legal Services on Key Collaborators?
I don't think I see them.
They do quite a bit of work with GPOA.
And
Okay.
Chrissy, one glaring that we must add is financial institutions.
Does the Bankers Association?
it's a piece.
Right. You've got credit unions out there, so other financial institutions.
Okay. And I just noticed we have the Bar Association in here already. So it's the trust and probate.
Because we've done this before in our state, it's been a few years. Do we want to pull in the entity that created that campaign before? KDAD's funded it, but Leading Age Kansas actually developed it.
Everyone comfortable with that?
It's Rachel again, and it shouldn't be the American Bar Association. It should be the Kansas Bar Association.
All right, that's what it was. All right. Who wants to present this?
This is Ernie, AARP. I will.
Thanks, Ernie. All right. Next is appeals of involuntary removal. This is Charlie's bill. It was the task force recommendation. The group changed the name from Charlie's bill because they liked the intent around the bill. However, wanted to defer to the research conducted by the Judicial Council. And so that's how the language was changed at the last meeting. Any other final tweaks? All right, who wants to present this one?
Bill Persinger here. I'm pretty sure I'm not the best to present. I think that if you know, with Tracy's background as you know, in licensure reviews and auditing and that regulatory end, you know, Tracy's making a trip up from Southwest Kansas, I think, to present on another. Maybe a good use of her time would be to consider her to present here, but that's just an idea. And Tracy, sorry to kind of volunteer you here. Feel free to say no, of course. But you know, you're making that long trip. You've got a good background, inside facilities and healthcare in general.
Are you comfortable with this, Tracy?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Tracy.
Take a look at the leads, key collaborators, any changes in indicators.
This is Camille. Long-term care ombudsman would like to be a key collaborator.
Is there something in the wording, rationale or recommendation that appeals, if we're going down this path, which I think in the end, we probably wouldn't agree with every single thing that's stated, but there has to be a timely appeals process. Because a person who needs full nursing home care left in an assisted living facility for weeks, if not months, while something's being decided is not something that any of us would want.
To allow a resident of an adult residential care facility to
Timely appeal, or that the
Okay.
appeal is determined in a timely manner.
Okay.
Because sometimes that can take a long time.
Sure. All right. Any other ones on that one? Otherwise, I'm going to move us along. All right. Decision-making assistance. Take a look at this one. Again, this is based on past legislation as well and moving it forward, keeping it alive. Who wants to present this one?
Bill Persinger here. We've got, people with a great background in practice of law. I don't know, maybe Rachel would be a good presenter here.
Are you comfortable with that, Rachel?
Rachel, and yes, I am.
Okay. Terrific.
Outstanding. It's a great use of the professionalism and talent in the group here so far.
So your action leads and key collaborators are pretty slim because this is a bill you are moving forward with. However, did you want to add anyone else to the key collaborators? Just wanting to make sure.
I might recommend adding DCF. You're getting ready to lead an adult decision-making learning collaborative in the state. So I believe we would have a role.
Any others?
Well, I think the Kansas Council for Developmental Disabilities was a very strong supporter and advocate moving that forward. So.
Okay. Any others?
I would like to double check and see if the Kansas Bar Association has taken a position, and I can do that and get back with you.
Sure. I will highlight it, and so I'll wait to hear from you.
Great. And one other, Kansas Health Foundation has done a lot with advanced directives. Does anybody know if they've been a player on this issue at all?
I'd have to look into it, but we can highlight that.
I might also recommend the Kansas Guardianship Program.
Okay. All right. So we are at 2 minutes. There are two ways we can do this. We can keep going through. Of 1, 2, we've got about 6 recommendations. So either we can add a half an hour to this meeting, or we meet again and I let the task force know that it'll be another week before they get their report.
Can we do it in a half an hour? Let's do it.
Let's keep moving forward, folks, if we can.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm okay with staying on.
Okay with us staying on for another half an hour? All right, I'm not hearing anything from him, but if I do, let me know. They usually schedule a half an hour grace, and so thank you, Cloyce. We shouldn't be kicked off, but if we are, I will let you know. All right, so let's keep moving along with mandated reporters. This was one that was highly debated as well in your group. This is the final language that was agreed upon. Any tweaks to the language? And then who would like to present it?
I'd like to see us fall back on Rachel for that, just technical legal area, the way I'm reading it. Or, maybe one of the other, geriatric professionals. just thinking about making a good use of travel time up to Topeka for, you know,
Mhm.
folks coming from Wichita, Garden City.
Rachel or
Right.
others?
Rachel,
Thoughts?
apologies for kind of volunteering you there, my friend.
Well, Bill, that's okay. It's not an area I'm terribly conversant in, but I'll get up to speed.
That'd be great. I think you're probably way closer than I am to be able to address any questions that might arise.
All right, and this is also state change in statute, which is why your action lead is your legislature. Take a look at your key collaborators. Anyone you want to add?
Once again, sorry guys, I might recommend adding Adult Protective Services DCF because we do so much
Agreed.
reporter training.
Yep. Agreed.
Any others? All right. Next one, funding CMHCs. Take a look at this recommendation. Bill, I think, I don't know if you can defer to someone else on this one.
Probably not going to be able to get out of that one. No, I will take that, although I sure defer to Tracy's expertise in community mental health. We haven't been in the field for what, Tracy, good 20 years now anyway.
Let me know, Tracy, if you want to do it. I didn't mean to volunteer, Bill.
No, I'd be glad to do it, but I'd sure defer to Tracy or anyone else really.
I think you probably
I
have
just-
a better understanding about the whole funding thing.
Well, thank you. I don't want to appear, I don't want to have any appearance of, you know, self-serving there. So.
Any questions, edits on the recommendation language? I know this is one that you had talked about fully and then it was prioritized as tier 3. All right, take a look at those leads and key collaborators.
You know, I think it fits here just real quickly and, you know, visiting with several folks over time and, you know, not only access to behavioral health practitioners like therapists, prescribers, and case managers, but people in mental health or behavioral health who can help our seniors get access to the system and navigate the system and coordinate care and follow up and some things that, you know, Chrissy said have been important to me. And so, yeah, sure, a therapist to work in a facility in Great Bend or Pittsburgh would be great, but, you know, someone to follow along and advocate and who understands the mental health, behavioral health system is important. And particularly as mental health centers migrate to, you know, having greater access and more involvement in people's lives in their homes and at work and in the community, those navigators, those helpers along the way are going to be real important. Me, that makes any sense. It probably doesn't change our language. It just, you know, let's think beyond just counselors and therapists and prescribers to care coordinators and people who follow along and advocate and navigate the system.
Thank you. Rachel, did you have a comment?
I do. It seems to me that the key collaborators would also include first responders. And again, maybe county district attorneys, maybe city attorneys that are going to be dealing with the fallout of behaviors that maybe can be worked out, mental health courts and that sort of thing that we're seeing in some counties.
Any objections to that? Everyone's comfortable? All right. Any changes to indicators? I know that you guys vetted this pretty long list. Everyone's good? All right. Statewide needs assessment. Take a look at the recommendation language again. You've got all your agencies really conducting a coordinated effort.
And this is targeting the needs assessment related to abuse, neglect, and exploitation specifically. Is that correct?
Correct. You're still under that topic area.
Yeah, it gets a little murky because statewide needs assessment, that's something KDADS does on a broad scope for adult,
They-
Do you want
older
to
adult
do you want to
services.
move this kind of grade language further up so it's front and center?
Yeah, conduct a statewide A&E needs assessment.
Thoughts?
I don't know. I think it's going to get confused with other things.
Is everyone comfortable with that?
You know, this is Bill. This is a technical area. I sure appreciate comments from, you know, those who work in the field every day on this. We want to get this one right.
This is Chrissy. I would concur. I think it adds greater clarity to the
Mhm.
recommendations. So thank you, Deborah.
Yeah. All right. Any other edits? All right. Take a look at the lead and collaborators. Go ahead,
Chrissy-
Rachel.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is Rachel. We need to add county and district attorneys.
I know I should have it like on cut and paste at this point. I keep writing it out. Thank you, though.
Well, yeah, and the only reason I say that is the AG's office covers everybody except for Johnson County, Shawnee County, and Sedgwick County, which are big jurisdictions, and
Mhm.
they do their own thing on investigating and prosecuting.
I appreciate that. I think Chrissy was saying something, and then Jan.
I might recommend for action leads. I actually think it should be KDAD's DCF and the Attorney General's office as leads.
Any objections to that? Okay. And then Jan?
While I was waiting, I saw at Long-Term Care Ombudsman's office. That's very important, as they seem to represent the families that we're talking about. And but I was going to ask to be that put in there, and there it is. So thank you.
Yep. And I'll make sure I'll do a quick consistency check to see if we write it out or just keep the acronym.
That would help. Yeah, at least once it would help to have it out
Yeah.
there. So thank you.
All right. Did we have someone volunteering for this one?
Hina, Bill here.
Mhm.
Let me ask, setting aside the subject matter here, the content, is there anybody that we've not asked to make a presentation who would like to? You know, this great experience for people to get up and be a part of this. If you'd like to step up, regardless of the subject matter, you know, if anybody, let me just open it up.
I can show you the full list so far, but everyone on this group has volunteered already for at least one recommendation.
Ernie, have you been up there for one?
He has. He has an
Okay,
education one.
I want to make sure we're inclusive and we recognize the energy and the commitment people have made. And, you know, it's a, you know, can't find the word, pretty cool thing to stand up there and represent. So I want to make sure everybody feels like they've had an opportunity for that.
Yep. Bill, do you want to just do the 2 tier 3 recommendations?
I can sure try, but you know, as long as I can get the team to back me up if there are questions. I'm not sure what the Q&A will look like that day or the discussion, you know, but sure. And we're still looking at kind of concentrating that on the first day.
On the 24th, yep.
Yeah. Okay, that should work.
Okay.
Unless someone else wants it.
Nope, that makes sense. And I assume, Chrissy, with your absence, other staff from DCF will be present at the meeting? It's a big assumption to make.
I can make that happen. Absolutely.
Okay.
Super.
The other thing I'd like to offer, and I'm not sure if it's necessary, but I can definitely put together any additional data from Adult Protective Services if that would be.
I'll defer to Bill on that, on if he would need that to present at all.
Say again, I had a distraction. Sorry.
If you wanted, Chrissy offered if you wanted any data or like current kind of assessments that could be done, if you wanted that for context or assistance in presenting this recommendation.
I'm sure that'd be helpful.
All right, terrific. Okay, then we are moving on to your last topic. And again, thank you for your grace in adding some time. So this is adult care home surveys and fines, multidisciplinary surveyor. So we know Lee definitely wants to do this one. Any changes to the language?
you know, here where we need it's a technical area, you know, folks, Rachel, Tracy, others, Ernie, comment here.
I have just a comment on ease of implementation, the first bullet.
Yeah.
It's unknown whether it will be increased cost. Depending on the type of discipline added,
Mm-hmm.
could be less cost.
Yeah, okay. Would you want to
So-
remove this altogether?
Just remove that altogether. Yeah.
Everyone comfortable with that? You do have a score of 8, so yep.
Yeah.
All right. Take a look at your leads and key collaborators. Anyone to add there?
I wonder about NASW, National Association of Social Workers. We ought to have KASW, Kansas Association of Social Workers.
This is Lee Chaffee. I would agree with that. Do you also need to add perhaps the Board of not the Board of Healing Arts, the
SRB.
BSRB.
yes.
We could, yeah.
Well, not the BSRB, but why can't I think of it? Health Occupations Credentialing, because they credential some other they credential the dietary profession.
We'll just say regulatory bodies. And
There you
so
go.
that way, when you do that, and these are some suggestions, they can, those implementing it can think of others. Go ahead, Chrissy.
I'm wondering, team, does the MCOs have a role in this additionally?
This is Camille. This is State Long-Term Care Ombudsman. So actually, I think what we're talking about is for these federal surveys that occur. And so they are the structure of that is somewhat outlined by CMS federally. And they do actually have guidance that says already has guidance that says we will do this to some degree, and Kansas just has been able to not do that. So I think our recommendation falls in line with not only what is in place already in federal guidance from CMS, but also what the revised guidance that recently came out actually is highlighting more for the multidisciplinary surveyors. So we might be getting, this is pretty specific to nursing homes. Yeah.
All right. And we have some of that captured in the rationale, Camille, of what you were discussing. All right. Everyone good with this one then? And Lee, you'll present it. Moving on to the next one, technical assistance. So this is having a technical assistance department or a position. Any changes to the language here?
This is Deborah. I would be willing to
present.
Do this. Yeah.
There you go.
Good.
Any other leads and key collaborators? Okay. All right. Then I'm going to move us on to corrective plans. This is one that was discussed pretty heavily as well by your group.
Yeah, this is a good one too.
Yeah, I'm gonna, this might be another area for Tracy to look at, or others who feel like they have a good handle on regulatory matters.
Tracy, how many do you already have that you're going to present on? 2?
I can show you the list actually.
Oh, okay.
Deborah, go ahead, please.
There we go. So let me make this bigger because the first 3 topics are yours. We've got Tracy on 1. I think there are at least 2.
2, I think.
2.
Deb, if this is up your alley, jump in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I could certainly.
Sure.
Could certainly do it.
Good with that, or Tracy, did you want to do it?
Tracy?
Whatever you guys decide is fine.
Well, and I think the reason behind this one, if I remember, it has to do with the fine piece of it, is that they would use directed plans of correction in lieu of fining to help actually change the system.
Right.
And help homes with that.
And so that our state uses more of the full spectrum of possible enforcement actions at their
Right.
disposal, which they're pretty singly focused at this point.
Well, this is Camille, and my definition of directed plan of correction was that it was a meaningful plan of correction to remedy the issue that existed that they were cited.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to
Right.
make sure that we're okay. All right.
So look at
Yeah.
this rationale. Is there anything you want added to this or corrected? Because when you are not presenting and the group goes back to this report, they may not have your testimony in their ear. So I want to make sure it's captured here correctly.
Lee Chaffee, Adult Care Homes. I believe this works. You're still going to have to submit a plan of correction within 10 days, regardless of the
Absolutely.
directed plan.
Right.
So I'm not. I think the rationale for this isn't so much, I think it's trying to capture what Camille is saying, plus using their full range of tools.
Yeah. Rationale, use the full, yeah.
Let's see, to implement a plan, homes may not have enough time to address the system level issues. So homes may not have enough time, which I completely agree with, but the directed plan of care doesn't give you much time either. I mean, that's just the state telling you what you need to do to fix it. So it's still under, correct me if I'm wrong, Deborah, it's still under some pretty tight time frames. They just, so they come back even with the deficiency report, and they say you need to do this within this many days. So I agree, but I'm not, I just want to make sure we're getting the rationale correct on this.
Well, I think the rationale is that we want the state to harness the full spectrum of tools to bring nursing homes back into compliance.
To assist, not to bring, but to assist. So it's more of a,
yes, right. And right now, they're not using that full spectrum of tools.
does that capture, Camille, what you're saying as well for the plan of correction or time frame?
I think it's as close as we're going to get at this point for this recommendation.
Right.
And the time frames are set federally, so we can't.
Yes.
There's not much we can do.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with this? Or do you want to remove the sentence about enough time?
The statement the directed plan would harness without the enough time, without the reasoning,
It's tough, right? If you're comfortable with this, then this is the new language. I can show it to you and kind of the track change so you see what was added.
And then do you need to change nursing homes to adult care homes? Because can we use, I mean,
just to make it more comprehensive.
Right.
I remember both you and our KDAD's Lacey both saying to use adult care homes per statute. So thank you. All right. Deborah's going to present this one. Take a look at your leads and your key collaborators. And then we're on our last one.
Did that say adult care home administrators?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you'll do a search, Hina. And
I will. Now that you've said it, I'm going to do a global search.
Super.
Any others? All right, then I think this is your last one. This is that big one with the website. You did have much conversation about this. So the last bullet was changed to link to the CMS website. So that change was made after our last meeting, but take a look if there's any other language. And then let me know who wants to present it.
We have somebody in the group that's particularly expert with, electronics and virtual and, web and all those things, technological.
And also volunteer people that aren't on here. I didn't say that.
I was gonna say, is
purposefully.
Carter with it? Carter's not with us today, is he?
He isn't. Carter's not here. Lacey's not here.
I
So
say we volunteer young Carter, but just being a young guy, he's probably, I know he's pretty self-sufficient there in his facility. But if there's somebody else on the screen that wants it, I'm sure not the one.
I would like to discuss bullet point 2
Yes.
under the recommendation, please.
Yes.
I do not believe that it will be feasible for the survey team. If KDADS is going to review the nursing facility's financial health, that can make sense to me, but you need to more clearly define probably, or more clearly recommend. It might have to be done on the back end at the office. I don't believe the survey team, number one, has enough time. If you're wanting them to survey
No.
the care and services that are being provided during that survey, which is
The
what they need to be
expertise.
looking at, if you redirect them to finances, number one, they're going to take longer, and it's going to take their focus off of, are these residents being well cared for? So I think we need to more clearly define that bullet point.
Yeah, maybe take out during survey on that for sure.
Right. I think it's wonderful if if as part of this website, they're reporting homes that might be in financial trouble, but the survey process.
would you want to, I think this clarity was brought on because there was a discussion around how will this happen. But if you want to keep it broader, you would just keep this second sentence. So
I would
I
be
leave
in
that to
favor
the
of
group.
the second sentence.
Yeah, just leave the second sentence.
Thoughts from the whole group? Any objections to that?
Establishing the threshold for experiencing financial hardship will sure be interesting in this era where a large percentage of nursing homes are experiencing financial hardship.
Would you want this mechanism added to the rationale or anywhere else? That was kind of an action step of being able to collect that information, but it sounds like more work is needed to figure out how to collect it, if I'm understanding that correctly. Okay. Would you want that added to the rationale that they need to consider? No, that's in here. Okay. Everyone comfortable with this? Any objections to removing this part of the bullet? I'm going to get rid of the yellow because sometimes that strains people's eyes as well. Yeah? Any other changes to this recommendation? Lee, Deborah, you guys spoke up. Either of you want to present this one, or someone else in the group want to present this one?
I'm happy to, or Deborah, I think either one of us would be fine to present it.
Yeah, I can do it.
I would love for the legislature to have, and everyone to have line sight on like how hard it is to run a nursing home and with the finances that you get.
Yeah,
Like
negative.
what Deborah said, there's a lot of financial hardship right now.
Oh yeah, negative unintended consequences of making something like that public is something that is on my mind.
True.
Frankly, like any one of your organizations or the providers that are within your catchment area, having publicly reported data based on somebody's assessment of what needs to be reported will be tricky and have a negative unintended consequences.
Actually, Jan, have you volunteered for any of these? Just
Well,
thought about that.
that's okay. Let me make my point for the other.
Yes.
No, I haven't volunteered for any of those yet.
Yeah.
The information about the financial poor performing and the financial dilemma that care homes are facing now is very important. It's a reality check and takes us out of this image of what nursing homes are and the reality. And I think it definitely needs to be included. Now, whether it's not allowed, I don't know. But me as a family member of a persons in care homes, that's one of our criteria that we want to have that information when we're trying to choose the proper new home or setting for our loved one to be in. And this information is kept closeted in our opinion. You don't know because everybody, oh, we don't want to talk about that. And yet we very much need to talk about it because everybody needs to recognize the dilemma that's, across the state. And I just want to be sure that that it's included. It's important when we're taking choices and for the legislator hopefully to read into this and say, ooh, they don't get enough funding, and funding drives the train.
Yeah, that's one side. Yeah. Mhm.
Hina, this is Bill. I'm going to have to bail on you guys, but carry on. Got to go across town to a meeting. Great work today. Great bunch. Really appreciate you guys. And thanks to all of you for signing up and help out.
Thanks, Bill. And Lee Chaffee, I'm going to have to sign off as well. I've got an 11 o'clock I have to be at. So thank you all.
Take care, everybody. Hina, we'll leave it to you to fill in any blanks that we're leaving behind here.
That's great. And so, Jan, I want to make sure that you saw that we have kept this statement. Are you comfortable with that? We've just removed how that information would be collected.
Okay. Yeah, I think my comment was coming back to the comment previously that this is going to, not needed or people might be reluctant to do it, but I want to emphasize that it's important that the information is out there.
Got it.
Yeah, the state collects that information. I mean, they collect extensive data through the cost report process, and they would have to make some kind of assessment, basically based on that cost report data as to the financial health of a specific
if they can put it in lay terms, it would be very helpful. But the cost report on its own, it's a little.
I think the website is just going to have a red, yellow, green on there is what was discussed. Like next to the nursing home, it would have a red, yellow, green or some indicator like that of financial health.
Yeah, a little asterisk.
Yep. So take a look at your leads and key collaborators. Deborah, I have you on there with Lee. You guys can decide which one of you will present and let me know when we send out our minutes. Any others to add? All right, then that is the end. I'm going to bring us back to this quick look at the presentations. I know, Jan, that we have quite a few for you under the working group B. However, there's none that I'm seeing here for you. Are there any that you wanted to present or co-present?
I'm not sure where I fit. This is what the trouble I've had with it in volunteering for these.
You have time to think about it.
Yeah, let me send you a
before the
note.
next meeting, if there's somewhere that you wanted to co-present with someone else. I know Bill would definitely love for you to take one off his hand if you wanted to.
Well, yeah, let me, yeah. I'd be happy to do that.
And we'll send out the minutes by the end of the week. And so you'll have a chance to take a look at this list. If there's any changes, again, technical corrections, if you have any, you have about a day if you find something else. And we will make sure this report is sent over to KLRD and the task force by the end of this week.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for your grace in providing 30 additional minutes. I think you had some terrific conversation, changes to your recommendations as needed. Please be very proud of this list. I know it was a long process, but you have a wonderful list of recommendations that you will present to the task force now. And then I look forward to seeing you in August, and I will be there virtually, just so everyone knows. But Emma will be in the room, and we'll have other members from KHI, such as Carrie Bruffett or others, that will pop into the room. And so you will be supported in person as well.
Good, thank you.
All right, any questions or concerns? Otherwise, great to see you as always, and I'll see you in a month.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone. Thanks, Ian.